Hi, my butterflies. Welcome back to another episode of Finding Your Feet. Welcome back to our beautiful, safe, sage space. Oh my gosh, guys. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Feels so good to be settled back in after the turbulence, after everything. It feels so good to be back here. I've had a hectic week and I can't wait to talk about this week's topic. But before we get into it, you know the drill. Check-in time. Okay, everyone, stop what you're doing. If you're holding anything, drop it. Wow. I don't know about you. I don't know if you guys have been feeling heavy over these past 2 weeks. I don't know if you guys have been feeling low, anxious, sad, even. You know, if you have been feeling these heavy feelings, let's acknowledge them because I know I have. It's okay. We're okay. You're not alone in this. You're not the only one having these feelings. We're going to be okay, guys. Let's close our eyes, put our hands on our heart, and just take a deep breath in. And just hold in this deep breath and think about anything that you'd like to let go of, anything that you'd like to release, anything that you've been holding on to, and exhale out. And as you exhale, just release everything, release all that stuff. And then inhale and imagine all this positive energy going into you. And then as you exhale, imagine all the negative going out. Okay? So do that a couple of times if you feel the need to. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Do that a couple of times if you need to. Okay? Feel free to open your eyes now. How are you feeling? Ask yourself at this moment, how do I feel right now? How am I feeling? I mean, after the past week, I'm feeling good to be here. I'm actually super excited and confident and happy today to be back on the podcast, to be back talking to you guys and just being in front of the camera. You know, just before this episode started, just before we started filming, I was like, oh my gosh, I love the camera. It feels so good to be back. So I'm really glad. So that's how I'm feeling right now. And yeah, no, I'm feeling really good to be here. How do you feel right now? How am I feeling? How are you feeling? Ask yourself that. How do I feel? Next question. What is something that you did this week that made you proud of yourself? What is something that you conquered this week? What is something that you faced? What is something that you did this week that ultimately deserves a round of applause? For me, it was just conquering the feelings of just lowness and heaviness and getting up every day and trying to push myself to shower and make my bed and walk and eat and just do work and all this stuff. And it was a lot. It was heavy. I don't know if you guys ever get into those states where you're just like, I don't want to do anything. I just want to lay in bed all day. That was me, literally. And just, I'm so proud of myself for pushing myself to just, get out, and then also allowing myself to rest, because even in those moments of heavy, we don't recognize that this is a time for rest and we should be taking this opportunity to rest. So I'm proud that I pushed myself to get up and do a few things, but I'm also proud that I allowed myself to rest. What's something that you did this week that made you proud of yourself? What's something that you did this week that ultimately deserves a round of applause? What is the song of the week? What's the album of the week? Who is the artist of the week? What's the vibe of the week? The music vibe, of course. That's the next question. What musically got you through the week? For me, honestly, it was frequencies. I don't know if you guys have ever tapped into frequencies or if you know them. I am a frequency girl. I can listen to frequencies all day long. I am a frequency girl. I'm just out here listening to frequencies. I'm always listening to 528. It's a healing frequency. And I can just have it on, just playing on repeat for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. And through this heavy, low time, I just found that it kept me leveled and I didn't dip so heavy and so low. So yeah, that was my music. That was the sounds that kept me going. And I appreciate those who discovered frequencies because, wow, it got me through. It got me through the week. What about you guys? What's something, some music, some artist, some album, some music vibe? What got you through this week? And the last question, a new addition to the check-in. How did you flow this week? That is a new question I would love everybody to ask at the end of the day, not even at the end of the week. How did I flow? Did I flow in a way that allowed myself to live my truest, authentic life? Did I flow in a more constricting way? So, not really flowing, but hey, that is in itself a flow. Did I flow in a way that allowed me to shine my light to the world? How did I flow this week? For me, I allowed myself to flow with my feelings and not force myself to be happy, chirpy, bubbly, and just allow myself to flow with the heavy feelings, because sometimes even flowing down there is a flow. So I was flowing low, and that was my flow this week. How did you flow? That's a new question, something new, something different, Never too late to spice it up and add an addition. If you watched last week's episode, you know exactly what flowing is and the art of flowing and trying to flow and becoming the master of it. So just learn to flow. How did you flow this week? New question. Okay, guys, I'm so excited to talk to you about this week's topic. I'm super, super excited. This week we are talking balance, boundaries, and having tough conversations. So grab your blanket, get cozy, and let's talk. Okay, guys. So it's like a guidebook, if you will. Let's call this episode the guidebook. The guidebook to having a quote unquote balanced life. What is balance? The guidebook to setting boundaries. What are boundaries? And the guidebook to having tough conversations. What are those and how do you have them? I know many of you are probably wondering and thinking and, trying to answer the questions that I just gave. Let's start with the beginning. So, balance. When you hear that, I'm pretty sure you're thinking, the scale, this side and this side, balancing it out. But think something totally different. When you think balance, right now, close your eyes actually, and I want you to imagine a multi-scale. So instead of 2, imagine 8 or 10 even, trying to balance out. That is balance. And the balance of life often looks very multi. It's not 2. It's always like a lot of things. You're always trying to balance a lot of things usually. Personal life, work life, this, that. You're always trying to make sure that everything in your life gets enough time, energy, effort, love, attention. So, finding a way to balance everything out is super, super important. How do you even do that? What is balance? So to me, I will always think balance is like the art of flowing and dancing with your polarities and learning when to give something a little less attention, but not in a negative way, because you know that thing will survive without this much attention, and learning to flow and give something more attention when you're called to. So never constricting and restricting yourself to having to give everything 50, 50, 50 equally. Sometimes some things are going to get 10, sometimes some things are going to get 60, sometimes something is going to get 40. All in all, everything is getting the amount, energy, and love it needs. But you have to kind of identify that in your own personal life. What things need more time? What things need more love? What things need more energy? Because in the art of balance, you've got to learn how to balance all the things. And the aspects include the energies, the time, the love, the patience, the resources. And so learning to find your flow and your dance, that's balance. So balance isn't ever going to be straight out. It's rather going to be like a wave, if you will. It's literally going to be like a wave. It's going to constantly flow and dance. Think of balance as like a river, flowing, left and right and up. Like it's always dancing, it's always moving. It's never going to be like this steady, regimented thing, Back to last week's episode, flowing with life. Balance is ultimately flowing. And when you find your flow, you found your balance. And it's going to look different to everybody. So that's what balance is. What is balance? Balance is flowing. Okay. And if you get anything and if you remember anything from this balance part, it's balance is flowing. And that's my definition of it right here at Finding Your Feet. Flowing into the next, obviously, boundaries. What are those? How do they look? How do they look in your life? How do they look in my life? How do they look like when you're setting them? How do they look like when you're identifying them? What is a boundary? Often people tell you that it's this simple thing, like, oh my gosh, yeah, no, boundaries, just set a boundary. But it's really an intricately detailed designer, something that you have to look at with like a magnifying glass. Boundaries are so simple yet so complex. And I often think that once someone has stepped over a boundary, we're like, oh, that was a boundary. I didn't know that I had that. You know, for me, when someone steps over or crosses a boundary, it alerts me that I had a boundary there, because I would just go through life like unaware of that boundary that I've unconsciously set. And then when someone, steps over, I'm like, hey, hold on, I had a boundary there. So that's a way of identifying boundaries. When situations arise and they make you feel uncomfortable and you're not sure why you don't like what this person's just done, that's likely a unconscious boundary that you've set that you haven't communicated. And so it's good in those moments to communicate those boundaries to those friends and to those people in your life, because communicating your boundaries communicates to the person that you want them to stay, and you want them to be in your life respecting you. If you don't say anything to me, that's you saying, well, I don't care if they're here or not. And a friend of mine said that to me, like, if you don't tell me, like, if I'm overstepping or not, I'll just think that you don't want me to be in your life. And I was like, man, I didn't really look at it like that. And ever since then, we've had multiple conversations about boundaries and setting boundaries, and if we've ever crossed boundaries in each other's lives and stuff like that. Another friend of mine, my best friend, actually, we went to breakfast once, and we were both having a conversation about how we have boundaries, but we actually don't know what they are. And what is a boundary, and are they boundaries that we've crossed in each other's lives that we aren't aware of? And like exploring that whole conversation of boundaries, and we found that, wow, we've actually got so many boundaries that we aren't aware of. And they're just small things that, when you say them out loud, it's like, is that really a boundary? But it is. That is my boundary. I don't want you to do that. Don't do that, So setting a boundary is honestly an uncomfortable, tough, weird conversation to have. But it's such a beautiful outcome, because when you flow with that conversation, you have it, and the person, they receive that conversation like almost critical criticism. Is that what they say? No, that's not what they say. Constructive criticism. That's what they say. And they receive it as constructive criticism, like, okay. And they stop doing that or don't do that thing again. That your friendship blossoms to another level. And it literally grows to this beautiful thing, and it explores another level of something you didn't even know could happen. So don't be afraid to express your boundaries to your friends. You never know where it will go. And if they're mad at you, they weren't meant to be in your life. Leave them alone. It's okay. Tough conversations aren't bad things. They're actually beautiful things. And having them allows you to, one, fully release and express how you've truly been feeling about something. Two, communicate to the next person if they've upset you, if they've hurt your feelings, if they've crossed a boundary. And three, allow for solution and resolution to be formed so that you two can go in a positive light, So I think uncomfortable, tough conversations are the most beautiful things in the whole world, and I encourage everybody to have them. I encourage you to initiate more. I encourage you to think about more, manifest more, just more tough conversations, more setting boundaries, so that you can have genuine, loving people in your life who respect your boundaries and aren't afraid to have a little conflict. I used to be very conflict avoidant, and it's something that I'm learning in my life now, that it's not a bad thing. Conflict it's not the worst thing. It's not the end of the world. Sometimes you need to confront some things to move forward and to get over this hump, because as long as there's like a lingering thing happening, there's an awkwardness and there's an elephant in the room that people aren't discussing, and it's there. We can all feel it, but no one's saying anything. So I've learned that conflict and confrontation and confronting things that have happened and situations that have occurred are like the best things. They're conflict, confrontation, and confronting something. Love it. It's the best for you. It, one, shows yourself that you stand up for yourself. So that's building self-trust, which in turn is self-love. It, two, communicates to the next person things that they maybe weren't aware of, maybe they weren't aware of, which is amazing, because now they can act differently. Little side tip for you guys, little piece of advice. One thing that I've had to learn is people cannot read your mind. You actually have to communicate with them. You actually have to say something. You actually have to say, hey, I feel like this and this and this. You can't just assume that they know what you're doing or what you're thinking or what you're saying or the decisions you've made in your head. You actually have to like speak. So having uncomfortable conversations allows you to communicate things maybe they didn't know and they can now act differently. And then just the relief and release that it gives you, like, oh my gosh, it's like taking something off your shoulders and breathe and like just, oh, it's the best feeling. You truly feel so relaxed and at ease after having uncomfortable conversations. Trust me, go try it out. Literally, go and try it out, guys. Like, go and have an uncomfortable conversation. If there's someone you've been meaning to express something to, go and do it. Don't be afraid of their reaction. Remember, their reaction is not your responsibility. It's their responsibility. Communicate how you're feeling, express everything authentically and with love, and then everything, honestly, leave the rest. None of that is for you to deal with. Your only job is to express your 50%, and then they'll express their 50%, okay? So go out there and have uncomfortable conversations and set your boundaries. Those are my two like tips from the guidebook. Go have uncomfortable conversations, go set your boundaries, go be the best version of yourself. And these are like the guides to becoming the best version of yourself and showing more self-love and building more self-trust and showing up for yourself and just doing more things for you, because, you know, we here value our internal selves and we want to make sure that we're doing okay. Okay? On back to balance, you know, how this correlates with boundaries and having tough conversations, balancing out the good and the bad, if you will, because good and bad are constructs at Find Your Feet by me. I think they're constructs, they don't actually exist, but that's whatever. But balancing out the highs and the lows, you know, when you're in a low period, knowing that this isn't the end of the world, there is a high at the end of this, or at the other side of this, there is a peak. You are going to get over this, you know, there is something at the other side of this, you know, over the rainbow, there's going to be something after this storm. Balancing out those moments, and even in your happy moments, appreciating them so much so because you have just gotten out of something so heavy. So appreciating them for those kind of like blanketed moments of, whew, I just got out of that really heavy experience, and this happy moment is just like a hug of compassion, a hug of warmth, a hug of sunshine, if you will. So yeah, balancing out those moments and finding a dance between them, not getting too consumed by the happy, not getting too consumed by the sadness, equally viewing them, you know, equally enjoying them, if you will, equally embracing them. Sad feelings also want to get embraced. Heavy feelings also want to have a seat at the table. You guys see me always welcoming nervousness. You know, today she's here, but today I'm not welcoming her because it's okay. You see me welcoming nervousness all the time. So welcome heavy, welcome sad. Give them a place at the table. They want to be embraced as equally as happy and joy, you know. Balance, you know, balance between the experience of feelings. You know, we're always feeling things, and it's good to have a flow between them and a dance between them. So yeah, balance, boundaries, having tough conversations. Those are three, I think, best friends, if you will, the trio, if you will, and they are like the guide to becoming the best version of yourself. They're a building block. They're a part of the many building blocks and many layers and bricks that you'll be using to build the best version of yourself. This is one of them. This is a key tip that I'm loving, that I'm sharing with you guys, and I would love to hear your feedback on it, to say if you used it, if you tried it, what do you think of it? I would love to hear the feedback. You know, I think it's amazing when we come together as a community and as one and share different building blocks with each other to becoming our best versions, because we all want to see each other shine. At least I do. I want to see all the butterflies out there. I want to see all of you with your wings out spread and your beautiful colors and just shining and sharing your light with the world. At least I want to see you guys. So I think we should always share tips of, you know, becoming the best version of ourselves and self-love and more self-trust and more pouring into self. And so, I just think this is a beautiful, safe, sage space. And I would love to hear your input as well on how you are becoming more and more the butterfly you'd love to be. Yeah, guys, thank you so much for joining me today on this episode of Find Your Feet. Please remember to subscribe and like the video and hit the bell so you never miss a video. I love you guys, and I mean that genuinely. Like, you know me, I love love. So I genuinely mean that. I love you guys so much, and I hope that the next weeks are filled with so much love and an abundance of joy. Okay? Bye, butterflies.
Okay.